Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here at our new headquarters at Football Australia. We're here, of course, to confirm the circular that's gone out that Graham Arnold is no longer the Subway Socceroos head coach. This week, Graham Arnold offered his resignation, and we are confirming that the Football Australia board has accepted that resignation. This resignation transpired very quickly. It comes off the back of our last match in the round 3 qualifiers against Indonesia. And I want to say very clearly that we appreciate Graham Arnold. He's had a great run for the Socceroos and also for Australian football. Graham has been a key person within the Subway Socceroos setup for the past 6 years, and under his leadership there have been many outstanding achievements that have been made by the Subway Socceroos. Of course, the last World Cup campaign, Qatar in 2022, Graham was right at the helm of the success of the team. Graham's had a long career in Australian football. He's had 40 years. He was a successful coach in the A-League before he took on the job of the permanent Subway Socceroos coach. He's had an outstanding playing career and he's done a lot for Australian football. So we wish Graham Arnold, we wish his family all the very best in the future. And on behalf of the Football Australia board, I do want to thank Graham personally for all the work that he has done over the past 6 years. This news was shared already this morning with our staff. The players are informed about the news. We have a strong group of national team staff, and for them it's business as usual as we head into the next round of the round 3 qualifiers that'll be played in a few weeks, our first match in that window against China in Adelaide. I want to say very clearly that we're very excited about the future of the Subway Socceroos and the upward trajectory of the program. We believe in the players, we believe in the team. We have every bit of confidence that the team will go on and qualify for the World Cup in 2026. And we will continue to heavily invest in this team because we believe that they will qualify. We are already in the market for a new coach. We know the market, we know who's available, and I want to confirm that we will move quickly to appointing a permanent coach before the next window. And hopefully in the coming days or next week, or the next week or two, we would like to convene you here with us so we can share the news of who the new Socceroos coach will be. Thank you, and I open up the floor for any questions.
Thank you, James. Just we'll open up the floor for questions, as James said. As a courtesy to everyone, each member of the media limit themselves to one question and one follow-up, and we'll go around the room to ensure everyone has the opportunity to ask a question. So who would like to begin?
James, just confirming there'll be no interim coach in place. Obviously, you're facing a pretty tight timeline here. You're confident you'll have someone installed with enough time to prepare for that window?
Yeah, look, unlike the Matildas, the Socceroos are in a different part of their calendar. We have a match in less than 3 weeks' time. So our plan is not to appoint an interim coach. Our plan is to go into the market and appoint a permanent coach, a coach that we believe shares our vision and will get the best out of this team going into the World Cup in 2026.
And can you just talk us through what's going to guide that search, the vision that you have? What are those things and what sort of coach are you looking for?
So look, we want a coach that is obviously tactically astute. We want a coach that understands the Australian mentality, that understands our players. That's important for us because the coach would be coming in before the next window. And we want a coach that we have confidence in, that can guide us through a complicated Asian qualifying process. That sort of knowledge and experience will be important in our selection matrix for the permanent Socceroos coach.
Thanks, Vince.
James, take it from what you're saying then, you probably identified an Australian candidate to take this role as your preference.
Look, I don't want to give too many hints away, George, but what I will say is we play in a local and a global competition. We will look locally, but we'll also look globally. But ultimately, we need a coach that can come in, get the best out of an Australian group of players, and take our great players through a complicated Asian qualifying process.
Do you feel as an organisation, do you feel the weight of the appointment? Because if the worst were to happen, the Socceroos weren't to qualify for the World Cup for the first time since 2006, the knock-on effect financially, in particular for the organisation, will be quite damaging.
Yeah, look, we have every confidence that this team will go to the 2026 World Cup. We're not. We have every bit of confidence that will be the case. We are 2 games into round 3. We have another 8 matches to go. I would say it's a good time to freshen up the team with 8 games to go. And the reality is this is a long qualifying process. It's the longest qualifying process that we've ever had in a World Cup. There's round 3, and we're aiming to go through it round 3, but there's also a round 4 and a round 5 as well. We're very confident that we will go through. We've just got to get this appointment right.
What was Arnie's reasoning, and what kind of state of mind has he left the team, do you think?
Look, he's the kind of coach that he puts everything into the team. He puts everything into the lead up to matches. I think he was out of gas. He was very open about that. I met with him obviously this week, but I met with him after the Indonesia game, and he was, he's really he was tired. I think any more than that, I think you need to talk to Graham, but I think he ran under gas.
Anyone else from the room?
It's amazing how the gloss can, you can lose your shine very quickly. I mean, the Matildas weren't that successful at the Olympics, and after the great run at the World Cup in 2022, you've been going backwards. Is that a problem? You need to turn this ship around quickly. You concede you have a problem?
Yeah, look, I think we need to deal with the Matildas and the Socceroos specifically and differently. The Matildas are at the start of a cycle, and we've recently put in place an interim coach because we have time with the Matildas. We don't have another competitive match until the Women's Asian Cup in 2026, so we want to make sure that we get the right person in at the right time. The Socceroos are mid-calendar. They're 2 games into 10 round 3 matches, so we need to move quickly. We need to get into the 5th gear. Look, I think the Socceroos didn't have a great last window. I would agree with that. However, they're coming out of 6 out of 6 matches where they didn't concede and scored 20-odd goals in the round 2 qualifiers. So we're not panicking. We're very confident, and we just need to ensure that we put in place the right coach that we believe will get the best out of this team.
Just to follow up on that, you suggest that you play in 3 weeks' time against China. Will
20
you have
days
a
to be
coach in
exact.
place by then?
That's the plan, to have a permanent coach in place by then.
I know it's only been a matter of hours. Have you spoken to that potential coach?
Look,
Because you don't have a lot of time here.
Yeah,
have you spoken to the person that you're very keen on at the moment?
We're in the market. That's what I will say. We know the market, and we know who's in the market and who's available and who isn't available. That's what good planning does, and that's what good organisations with good football IP do. So I believe we're in a position that when we need to move quick, we can, and I think we will.
Did it feel to you, James, like the Socceroos needed some fresh ideas anyway? Was the writing kind of on the wall for Graham?
Look, I don't want to say that because, look, it was a bad window. We know that. But ultimately, we wanted to look forward post the Indonesia match. But having spoken with Graham this week, he was tired, right? And he offered us his resignation, and we've accepted it. So I think that right now the team needs to be re-energised. I think the team will do well with a new coach, and provided we can appoint that new coach before the next window, I'm very optimistic about what we'll see against China.
So he didn't try and change his mind. You felt it was the right time.
Look, I think that's going to be a question for Graham when Graham wants to talk. But look, Graham, and I want to stress again, he's had a remarkable tenure as the Socceroos coach. The last window was a difficult one for him personally. He cares a lot about this team. And, when we spoke, we felt that, he wasn't going to go forward no matter what we said.
And just potential new coaches, how many have you got in mind or on a short list? Are we talking a couple, one, or can you give us an idea of how many you've got in mind?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to get into to too many details on that, but what I will say is we are confident, and our plan is to have a coach in place, a permanent coach, before the next window, and we're confident in our abilities in the market, and we're confident that we will be able to get the right coach to take us to the 2026 Men's World Cup in the United States of America.
Said that Graham's been tied for a while now. Does it mean that you've had the idea that he was going to make this decision for a while leading up to it, or was it kind of quite sudden?
Look, I think there's a famous Roman saying, if you want peace, you prepare for war. In my mind, what that means is you need to prepare for every scenario, no matter which team you're running. We weren't expecting Graham to tender his resignation, but we're prepared, and we're prepared to move forward in the market, and we will appoint a coach very soon.
Do you have the sort of, I guess, idea of, obviously he hadn't resigned yet, but do you have an idea of potential, replacements if he did, before he did, I guess?
Look, we're right now we're in round 3 of the World Cup qualifiers, and we're focused on the next match. So, of course, after the Indonesia match, we needed to look at what went wrong, what went right, and of course, we needed to see an improvement before the China match. So those conversations were always going to happen. The way they went, though, is that Graham didn't feel that he could continue to go, and that meant that we needed to move forward and in the position that we're in at the moment, and that is looking for a new coach.
JJ, is Kevin Muscat available, or is he unable to? Has he ruled himself out?
Vince, look, I'm not. I'm not going to start dropping names, but as I mentioned, we've got a good. I think we've got a good group of people, good football IP in the organisation. We have a strong football development committee headed by Heather Garriock. We have a football executive experience of the likes of Sam Ciccarello and Gary Moretti and myself. Look, I believe that with that group of people, we know who's available, we know what we want. It's just a matter of going and executing that plan. I believe we will execute that plan. I believe it will have a new coach, and I believe that I believe in the direction that this team will go on their way towards the 26th Men's World Cup.
Okay, final question for this floor. We're going to go to Zoom.
JJ, is there a bit of a concern?
Next being Wayne
So,
Is experience of international football essential for your new coach? Or is it more important to understand Australian players, that mentality?
Well, it's both, right? Like we've got local players that have, of course, come through the A-League, but our national team is going through qualifiers in Asia. So I think the right person for the role has ultimately got to understand who's available, got to understand how to get the best out of who's available, and also understand how to work their way through difficult Asian opponents.
okay, thank you, James. We're going to go to Zoom. We've got some questions on Zoom. We have Joey Lynch. You're next.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for your time today, JJ. Just following, confirming, when you talk about Arnie being tired and not wanting to continue, physically he's not unwell, correct? This is just more mental fatigue. Physically he's not unwell or dealing with illness?
No, he's obviously disappointed about the last window, but the impression I got is he was tired and he'd given everything he could, and that was clearly the message that he'd given to myself, Anta Isaac, the chair, and also Gary Moretti, who we met with this week.
Cool, just want to get clarification on that. And also, you're talking about appointing a new head coach. What about the support staff involved? Is René Muhlenstein sticking around with the Socceroos? You just appointed Luke Wiltshire. Are you only recruiting a head coach, or are you bringing in assistants and support staff as well?
It's a good question, Joey, but right now we are solely focused on our new head coach. Any other resources that coach needs, we'll obviously be supportive of that because we want to set the coach up for success. But right now, our sole focus is on the appointment of the next permanent Subway Socceroos coach.
Thank you, Joey.
But René Muhlenstein and Luke Wiltshire, they're still employed at present. They haven't resigned their roles?
They are employed at present, that's correct.
Thank Thanks, Joey. Over to Erin now, News Corp.
Thanks, Peter. Hi, James. I guess,
Hi, Aaron.
how did the players take the news when they were informed?
Look, the players have been notified overnight. I'm in regular dialogue with Matty, the team captain. I will be speaking with him again when he wakes up in Rome. Of course, we'll work with the players because we're very proud of the players and we're very supportive and we believe in this playing group. So we'll work hand in hand with them as we go towards the next match against China.
And thanks, James. Just a follow-up there. You're talking about being able to move so quickly because you've been in the market and always aware of who's available and who's not. Just explain the difference between this and the Matildas. Like, it was no secret that Tony Gustafsson wasn't likely to extend his contract, yet it's likely to take until the end of the year almost to find someone.
Yeah, look, good question, Aaron. Look, the teams play different cycles. The Women's World Cup was played in 2023. It's 2024, so we're in the first year of a new 4-year cycle. The Matildas don't have another competitive match for around 15 months. So we felt that putting in place Tom Samani, who has been there before, who has coached the US women's national team, the Canadian women's national team, New Zealand women's national team, was really a safe set of hands and could allow us to really take our time in the market and wait for the right person. Socceroos, on the other hand, they're in a different calendar. We had a World Cup in 2022. They are mid-cycle right now, and we have a game in 20 days in Adelaide against China. So we need to move quickly on that. I think when it comes to searches in football, you've got to have different gears. In the Socceroos case, we're in the 5th gear, which is what we need to do in order to set this team up for success against China.
Thanks, JJ.
Thank you.
Marco Monteverde, you're next.
G'day, James. I think he said before that he spoke to Arnie after the Indonesia game and he seemed a bit tired. And then when he said last week that you, I think it was last Friday, he said that you were fully behind him. Did you have any inkling of what was going to happen or not?
Look, I don't have a crystal ball, Marco, but what I will say is when we put coaches in place, we need to support them. We give them 100% support. That will always be the case. Because the coaches need to feel supported and they need to feel confident. When we put in place our new coach, that will be the same. We're going to ensure that we put the right resources around the coach. They'll have the full support of the board, myself, the Football Development Committee, Gary Moretti, head of national teams, because coaches need to feel secure and supported if we're going to get the best out of them.
And just back on the players, you said before that that they've been notified and they're going to speak to Matty Ryan. I guess, they were pretty tight with Arnie. How do you think they're going to sort of respond and, might come out in that game, in those games next month?
Look, Marco, I think this is a very resilient player group. We saw their resilience, against the likes of UAE and Peru in the last qualifiers. We saw their resilience in Qatar. They're a strong group of players and a great group of players. I think whatever is thrown at this group, they'll do with well. We're going to be closely engaging with them in the absence of Graham and before we appoint our new coach. We've got those relations. We'll keep the dialogue. But I think that knowing this group, who are very resilient, they'll take this in their stride.
Thank you, Marco. That's it from online. Just we've got time for 2 more questions from the floor. Final questions, 2. So who wants to go? Go.
JJ, Arnie was frequently criticised for his tactics, perhaps unfairly, side's inability to break down teams who play in Asia, play in a lower block. Is that fair, or do you look at it in the wider context that the results of the young Matildas earlier this year, the Olyroos, it might be a wider systemic issue within the game here?
Look, I don't want to analyse Arnie's performance. I think his results speak for themselves. He took a team to the World Cup in 2022. He got 6 points in the group. He narrowly lost to Argentina. He's had a lot of successes. So I don't want to do anything other than be dignified and give Arnie the credit that he deserves over the period that he has been in place. The reality is, we need to now look at, who's available and what kind of tactics the next coach will need in order to be successful in Asia. And I can assure you that as part of our selection process, that's what we'll be doing, because ultimately our end goal is for this team to get through as quickly as possible to the 2026 Men's World Cup.